Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming on. Tonight's presentation is a preview of the 2023 NFHS Boys Lacrosse rules. Tonight, you're going to hear from Caitlin Kelly, who is the, well, I'll let Caitlin introduce herself. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Hi, good evening. My name is Caitlin Kelly. I am the Senior Director of Sports Administration. So I'm the liaison at USAL for the rules and the NFHS Rules Committee. I'm going to kick it over to James.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Weaver. I'm the Director of Performing Arts and Sports for the NFHS, and I oversee the rule writing process for boys lacrosse at the high school level.
Mr. Carbonell.
Jim Carbonell, Masso, up from near Boston, national rules interpreter for USA Lacrosse for the 2023 season.
So tonight's presentation, it's going to go through a preview of the rules. Jim and I have reviewed the press releases that have gone out in the rules books as well. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Caitlin will be reading them and then trying to filter them in as they come along. If we don't get to them, hang on to the end of the presentation and we will try to get to them the best we can. What we typically do is try to take all the questions from here and then include them in a future presentation in January, which we'll then try to distribute online. So if there's any corrections or if there's any new information that comes out from this, it'll probably be part of this presentation. Caitlin and James will release that information to everyone so they have that for the start of the season. And yes, I hope that we're able to get this out for our warmer weather clients, our warmer weather folks in Florida and Texas who start the season right away. So without a further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into things. James, anything you want to say on behalf of the NFHS before we get started?
Nope, just we appreciate the good working relationship we have with USA Lacrosse, and we're looking forward to a great upcoming season.
Thank you. So today's agenda, we're going to cover the points of emphasis along with the major rule changes and clarifications for 2023. You are going to see a few items in here that were not in the press release. That's because after reviewing the changes that are in the rule book, which are, as I've been told, shipping imminently. Is that correct, James?
Yep.
Yeah, so the books will be out. These are some of the things, in addition to what was in the press release, what Jim and I felt was an important thing just to point out as you take this to your coaches and officials across the country. So again, any questions, please put them in the chat box. So points of emphasis. Jim, do you just want to cover briefly, sportsmanship? This seems like it's something that we have each year, but it's always an important thing that we want to make sure that we convey, the relationship between coaches and officials.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. We see it every day in every venue, in every sport, that sportsmanship is being driven by the wayside. And we feel at USA Lacrosse and the Federation that we have to make an emphasis on it. And we're going to make the emphasis on it with ourselves by making sure that we do everything we do right. We do it professionally. We come in with the right attitude. We've all been yelled at by coaches. We've all been harangued by fans, so on and so forth. We've got to keep the stiff upper lip, be classy, be positive. Make sure that our communications with the coaches and the staff are fair, firm, and in the best interest of the games. And it's just an emphasis for everybody. We're going to try to get working with the coaches and the adults as the adults are the third team on the field in working for the good of the kids, especially at the youth level, but also at the high school level too.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, points of emphasis, player safety. I'll go ahead and jump in on this one. Players' equipment and how it's worn properly is something that we all need to be cognizant of. So I think this is sort of self-explanatory and something that's sort of brought up all the time. The helmet needs to be worn as it was intended by the manufacturer, and all 4 points of the chin strap need to be worn at all times. As you can see in this picture here, sometimes a fully strapped helmet is pulled off by a player. That means it's not being worn properly, because if it is worn on properly, it can't be removed. So make sure the players are wearing their helmets safely. That goes for coaches to talk to their players about it, and officials to talk about that in their pregame meeting with coaches. Eye shades. Jimmy, do you want to go ahead and take this one?
It is what it is. You know, the high schools and the federation in every sport has said that eye shade should just be the single line. One of the issues we've had in the past is people writing offensive or negative things on the eye shades and so on, and we just want to curb that. It is what it is. If we started early and make sure the coaches and players know in preseason and at the beginning of the games, it'll be something. It'll be taken care of.
And James, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a uniform rule for all high school sports. So it's not like lacrosse is being picked on in particular, correct?
Correct, yeah. And this is something that's being used in football, baseball. Points of emphasis, I believe, is in all of those. And the whole idea of it, like Jim was saying, is just to make sure that we're using eye shade for the reason it's supposed to be used and not using it for any intimidation factors or anything else. One thing that the rule committee wants to ensure is that we can't tell people what may or may not be offensive. So just know that one solid stroke is what it's supposed to be.
Great. Face-offs. Do you want to go ahead and talk, Jim, about the face-offs? There's been a lot of evolution of the face-off, and a lot of things happened in the past few years from the college level all the way down to youth. But do you sort of want to, summarize, what the general pulse of the lacrosse community is on the face-offs, and touch on some of the things that we'll be doing a little bit of a deeper dive into in this presentation?
Yeah, the most important is get the ball out of the area quickly, either in a stick or out of the scrum area. The point of emphasis, you have to play the ball first. You cannot dive into and hit the player without playing the ball first. You may clamp the ball, move, rake the directed immediately. Now, we've discussed what immediately means, and it's within one step. It's what's been promoted at the college level, the pro level, and forcing it and making sure it happens at the high school level. If it's clamped, if the kid looks up and looks around, take the ball away from him. It's not immediate. He's controlled it and he hasn't moved it. It's a clamp, step, drag, pop. And same thing, we may not lie on the ball or trap it on the cross. Trapping in the cross is where I said he clamps it, looks up to see where his players are so he can direct it to them. If he does that, he's withholding. It's clamp, drag, pop it out.
Right. I'll take this one, running clock penalty. So under a running clock, when a penalty expires during a face-off, the player is not allowed to re-enter the game until the face-off is completed. It's a point of emphasis because it's a finer point of something that does happen in game. So we'll dive into this a little bit later, but that is one of the points of emphasis from the committee, to make sure that this is discussed by officials and coaches so that it's well understood when it occurs in games. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the major rule changes and clarifications this year. Again, any questions, please put them in the chat box, and Caitlin will interject when she has a chance. Rule number one, Jim, do you want to talk about I guess the clarification of continuous sidelines and end lines, maybe what we were seeing out there on existing fields, and then how it's handled from a penalty perspective? I know that this is one of the questions that was asked. How often can it happen? When is it addressed? And what are officials supposed to do when they walk up to a field that is improperly marked?
Yeah, for years we have not addressed this situation, because with the idea of growing the sport and getting more and more people going, and with the emergence of turf fields everywhere, and there's only a certain amount of lines on turf fields, and especially if it's a football field, they don't do the extended lines, so on and so forth. And we've always kind of let it slide. Now that lacrosse is becoming more and more mainstream, I think we can all agree on that in many of the areas. It's felt that it's now necessary to have the full lines and have the full field so that it leaves everything that for straight and certain and no ideas of doubt. Was it over the line? Was it on the line? Where is the line? So on and so forth. So this is a nudge, a push to get the clearly marked fields 100% sidelines, end lines. And the penalty is much like it was with the midline. It's just simply loss of ball on the first possession. It's a push to get everybody to do the field lining correctly. And now that we have the paint that you can put the temporary paint and it washes off in a week or two or a rainstorm, no football coach is going to lose his mind that we are tarnishing his field when his football team comes on it. So we're looking at making it a full field and complete this year with this push.
Great. And one of the other questions that came in about this too is how many times per game can this penalty be enforced?
Just the opening faceoff.
Just the opening faceoff. So only with the opening faceoff, not in the second quarter, second half, overtime, none of that, correct?
Correct. And in some areas, local high school people, the MIAA in Massachusetts, they've waived certain rules, and sometimes this rule might be waived by your local. So make sure that if your state organizing body is in agreement with this, you make the call. If your organizing body has waived this, then it's not your call to make.
Caitlin, do you want to go ahead and interject with maybe some questions that have come up?
Sure. I didn't know if you wanted to keep them for the end or go back. James, I'm going to throw these questions, I think, to start to you. The first question is around the eye black and just asking how are other sports handling eye black since, teams do seem to violate this point of emphasis. And the person asking is concerned that if they do it in pregame, it will set a bad tone from the beginning. I just didn't know if you had any guidance from other sports. I will say in the women's game, this has been a rule for multiple years, and we remind the coaches in our pregame when we ask them if their players are legally equipped and in uniform that is part of it. And it's been a pretty established thing at this point on the women's game side.
Yeah, and the eye black rule has not changed in the boys game. So the penalty, the expectation is all the same. It's just a matter of making sure that's an emphasis, so we avoid kind of having that war paint style thing being put on your face. And so nothing has actually changed for us, and it should be addressed in the pregame because you don't want to have it on during the game. So during the pregame, all the pregame mechanics, this is when that should be addressed. There's no bad tone. Go wash your face, put one swipe on, move along with the game.
And the second question is also about a POE. It says, sportsmanship has been a POE for several years. What can be done or is being done at the state and local levels to communicate to the coaches, et cetera, on that topic?
Mm-hmm. So the NFHS and all sports has started this campaign called Bench Bad Behavior. It's going to have a lot of tools for the state associations to use. Make sure that our friends at US Lacrosse have it when it's all ready for lacrosse with those languages. But this is something that is not just a lacrosse issue. This is a across the board in every sport issue. Sportsmanship's a thing. It's gotten worse since the pandemic, and it's really become fan behavior has gotten worse, which then causes different sportsmanship issues on the field. So people just need to remember, like, we're all humans. Let's be nice to each other, and then just go play a good game. But I think there are some tools being created. I know US Lacrosse has a lot of resources on sportsmanship as well as the NFHS and the NCAA. So I would say use those resources to the best of our abilities.
And then one quick follow-up question: what penalty should be used if the eye black is not addressed?
Oh shoot! Well, let me grab my my rule book here. Hold on. You think I'd have that ready to go, but I don't.
I will answer. I can answer it back in the chat box so everyone can see it afterwards. If you guys want to move on.
Sure. All right, moving on. Rule change, the substitution area in the coaches box. Jim, do you want to sort of talk about, where the changes are, and then I guess maybe what they were changed from using the illustration we're looking at here on the screen?
Yeah, the last few years, the substitution box has been 10 yards on each side of the midline. So if it's a football field, it's from the 40 to the 40. Now this year, they're shrinking the box back to what it was from 1950 to whenever we changed it, to the 5 yards on each side of the midline, so the 45 to the 45. The thought process is a couple ideas. We want to keep it the same as the NCAA, the college, and have some continuation. It'll be the same as the women's, so that there's if people are lining the fields, they're not having 3 or 4 different lines on the field. And the other aspect is, on the officials' point of view, there was a lot of feedback that the substitution box being 20 yards wide made it difficult or somewhat dangerous for officials who are in transitioning that 20 yards and being in the way of substitutes coming in and out of the substitution area, and creating a little bit of a safety issue for both players and officials. And it was felt by a number of people that shrinking it back to 5 on each side and having that cone for us to maneuver around makes it safer and easier for us to manage that area. For old guys, it's just back to what we did for years. For new guys, they'll see the shrinking, and I don't think it'll be that big of an issue.
Great, thank you, Jim. Next, update to the pocket requirements. The pocket shall not be completely attached to the pocket shall be completely attached to the head and leave no gaps larger than a 1.68 inch in diameter, the size of an American golf ball. This might be a better question for James and Caitlin. Do you kind of want to talk about what the discussions were at the committee, and maybe where this came from in other rule sets and some of the success stories?
Can we go back to the box question? Sorry, I'm like one step behind you getting the questions in the box.
I'll pause next time. My apologies.
No. I put my hand up. I don't know if I have a hand thing. Jim, are we clearing the box in transition again?
That's a great question. We are not going at this point. Our mechanic isn't to go back into the box and go down and clear everything at this point. That's something that can be discussed in December and January on what our mechanics are going to be. But at this point, it would be very, very similar to what we do now, is jog through it. And if there's a 3-man game, the trail will come up and clear it. And or in a 2-man game, probably not.
And then the follow-up question on the box, are 2 extra cones required to keep players away from the box?
No, I think the cones, and I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor, that typically would be placed here at 10 yards, you're just moving them in. There's not extra cones that is required. Am I incorrect in that?
No, I think that's correct. You're moving the cones from the 40 to the 45.
Right. Anything else?
Well, so they say, please address the coach's box as shown on the slide.
Yeah, the coaches area. So the reason that I chose this image in particular here is some fields might already be marked, meaning they came in and they had their turf painted permanently with the substitution area. So what this is meant to show is this was the typical coaches areas like previously, and this was the typical substitution area. So all you would be doing is placing a cone here and here instead, and this additional area becomes part of the coaches area. That's all this is meant to show, because I know that that is going to come up, and people are going to, you know, assume, well, it's marked. What are we supposed to do? Just place the 2 cones 5 yards off the line.
That's great. Thank you.
Do you want to cover this?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so what we've been starting to see, as this is a rule change that's happening before we start seeing a lot of issues, we started seeing issues with alternative stringing techniques where you're leaving a gap at the top of the cross where it passes the stick check, but then once they put some pressure, apply pressure, they can actually grab the ball with this alternative stringing technique. So by having the no gaps larger than 1.68 inches, it prevents that from happening.
Great.
And you'll see on that stick, the head of that stick, you'll see on that stringing that they've left out the 2 lines, the 2 areas that's supposed to be strung. And that, if you read in the rule book, it says has to be completely attached. So those, you look at that stick and right there, that is in violation of the rule where it says it must be completely attached. So that would be an illegal stick.
Yep. And for those that do both girls and boys lacrosse, you'll notice that 1.68 inch deal is in both rule books as far as the gaps that are not allowed. Right, Caitlin?
Consistency.
Someone asked if you have to carry a golf ball. I do not think you need to carry a golf ball.
No.
But we were trying to give a commonly understood size of something in order to make a.
Yeah, Rick and I spoke about this this morning, and we're not putting anything else in our pockets. We're not carrying a utility belt for all the things that are going to make this game more anguishing for officials.
Exactly. Caitlin, anything else coming?
A broken cross is no cross, and we should penalize accordingly, correct?
Say that again.
A broken cross is no cross, and we should penalize accordingly.
Well, a penalty you're playing with the broken cross is a technical foul. A broken cross is not an illegal stick. A broken cross is a no cross, so he's playing without a cross. So
Yeah,
that's
typically, I don't know if this question is getting ahead of ourselves, because we're going to be talking about some issues that have changed or clarifications with the goalie when they're out of the crease. But
right.
Yeah, this is not a broken cross. This is just strung incorrectly.
This is an
altered.
Right,
it's been altered. A broken cross is when the shaft or the head are broken so that they're unplayable completely. That's when that would come into play, that it's a no cross. This is intentionally done.
So a person just asked for clarification that this would require the stick to be removed from the game and a 3-minute penalty.
2 minute.
Very good. Okay. Another rule change. Prohibited cross protrusions. It probably would just be best for Caitlin and James, since you probably talk about this on maybe a weekly or a daily basis, to kind of talk about where we are and some of the consistency that that you've been trying to bring to the world with the NCAA. Please.
You want to do this, Caitlin, or me to do it?
I'll let you go first.
Great, thanks. All right, so we started seeing some new stick designs hitting the market, and you'll see as noted on the screen, some of them have protrusions, and we had a big meeting with the manufacturers to talk about the safety issues that come with this. The protrusions on the particular sticks are easy to grab the face mask, easy to grab the shoulder pads and horse collar kids. Just very easy to make those kind of things. So we sat down with everyone and came up with a good definition I think everyone's okay with. And we said there's no protrusions or sharp edges allowed. And then the thing that I wanted to avoid is I don't want anyone bringing a protractor onto the field. Jim doesn't want golf balls. I don't want protractors, right? So we're not going to measure these things out. So what a protrusion is it's the cross shall not be able to hook on any part of the player's body, equipment, or helmet. The cross shall not penetrate the lacrosse helmet face protector that has been certified to meet the NFHS standard at the time of manufacture. So basically, if this is able to hook onto equipment, it's an illegal stick. We should catch most of these before they hit the field, so I'm not super concerned, but at the same time, just know that if a stick is grabbing onto equipment while you see it in the field, that would be an illegal stick. Caitlin, what did I miss on there?
I think you're good.
Yeah, and I'll just add that this previous weekend, I saw the NCAA rules presentation. So just to echo what Caitlin and James had said, this is an ongoing conversation that the governing bodies are having with the stick manufacturers to ensure that sticks are made safe and fair. So this isn't the last time this will be talked about, but this is the guidance that is at every level and is consistent among all the governing bodies.
Yeah, and just add to that, Rick, I think the thing that we've all determined of the governing bodies is player safety is number one. And if these stick designs are causing safety issues, potential safety issues, we want to stop that before it becomes a widespread area.
Right. And that'll be up to the governing bodies and NFHS to determine that level of stick. What we're concerned with on the field on Tuesday is if a stick has been altered to create a protrusion. We are not as officials on the field on Tuesday saying the Rick Lake Shazam is illegal. Okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to see just altered sticks. We are not ruling out certain manufacturers. That's not our job as officials. That's the job of the boards, the Federation, USA Lacrosse, NFHS, and the stick manufacturers. So we're only looking for sticks that an individual has altered, much like the stringing in the previous slide, to gain an advantage, not a manufacturer's stick.
Okay, the next one, I think this is one that was maybe not in the press release that came out, but it was something that was an important clarification that came for face-offs. So Jim, do you want to talk about, possibly why this rule came about and maybe some of the confusion that was occurring due to fouls that were occurring immediately after a face-off?
Essentially, if you've got a face-off violation, you're starting everything in the offensive half of the field and with a whistle and a 10 count. The only time you are not doing that is if a team has 3 men or more in the penalty box and they have to take a defensive player up to do the face-off. And now prior to that face-off, the other team violates. So now that defensive player who's doing the face-off must start the ball. He can't start in the offense because then he'd be offsides. He can't give it to an attackman because they're not released from below the restraining line until the whistle starting play. So in that instance, that player has to start in the defensive half of the field, and he has then 20 seconds to clear the ball.
Yeah, there's a series of new situations that are in the rule books that are situations K through N. Jim just very briefly summarized all of them. We'd encourage everyone to go and read them before the start of the season, and then make sure that you're looking at all of the language that's been updated within the face-off exceptions. Clarifications on footwear. How many pages of the book were taken out to clarify what shoes can be worn in lacrosse games, James?
3 pages.
3 pages. We're saving trees. I could just talk about this one very briefly since it's not really in depth. Shoes have to be for lacrosse. You can't wear metal spikes within the shoes. And again here, just for clarification, it's a 1-minute penalty, non-releasable, if a player is wearing shoes that do not conform to the rules. Caitlin.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you had a comment there. I'm sorry, I saw something.
No, it says metal tip studs on grass fields. Is the question.
If it has metal on it, it's a metal spike and it is illegal. Metal is metal.
You got it.
Metal is so 1970s.
And then the follow-up question is, once the player serves the penalty, how do they get back on the field if they still have metal spikes?
To come on the field, you have to be properly equipped. So if they were to come back into a game and found to have illegal equipment again, they're going to get another penalty.
Thank you.
All good?
This is a huge clarification. It's
What's
easy.
that?
It's a huge update that makes it a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah, it's something that's been a pretty much non-issue for a while, at least in my area, wherever I've officiated. I haven't come across metal spikes in years and years.
Okay, this one is where we got the most questions beforehand, and probably is where we're going to get most questions from the attendees here. The major rule change or clarification, I guess you would say, about goalkeepers. So for the longest time, there was sort of some ambiguity within the rules. The rule now says a goalkeeper, when outside the crease, is treated like a field player. Further in Article 8, it says players suspended immediately if the goalie's stick or other mandatory equipment becomes broken in the crease, and that's underlined specifically. So Jim, do you kind of want to talk about that, maybe working from your crease outward toward the rest of the field to talk about what this rule change means?
Yeah, and first, before everybody starts typing in a lot of things, we are aware that in 3 other areas of the rule book, it says that it must have a fully equipped goalie on the field at all times, and we're going to try to address that also. And we are aware of that, and we've been talking about this since August. But goalie in the crease has to have all his equipment. Without question, if he loses any piece of equipment in the crease, immediate whistle, making sure player safety. If the ball is in the crease, he gets the ball. If the ball is loose outside the crease, it's AP. If whoever has possession, if there's possession on the whistle, maintains possession. But the goalie safety can't lose anything in the crease, can't be in the crease without all his equipment. Once he leaves the crease, it has been determined that we should treat him like a field player. And that's the wording, is treated like a field player. So that if he is playing, if he has the ball in his stick and he's clearing, and he loses his glove, what would we do if that was a field player, not the goalie?
Right.
And he had the ball. We'd blow the whistle, he'd put his glove on, and we'd continue playing. Okay, he's treated in that situation. If he loses his throat protector, he's a field player who had possession. He keeps possession. He keeps going. He goes out of the crease now, and he loses the ball, and he's playing a loose ball. Here we have a bit of an issue and situation that we have to address. He now checks a player's stick, trying to prevent him from picking up a loose ball, and his stick breaks. What do? Well, again, in the rule book, he's a goalie that must have all the proper equipment, yet he's out of the crease, so we have some contradictions. If the ball is loose and he is in the scrimmage area, what would you do if it was just a midfielder who broke his stick and was in the scrimmage area? Would you call a play on? You could. Would you blow the whistle for he's in the area playing without a stick? Just the fact that his body is in the way of other people, blow the whistle, illegal procedure, playing without a stick? other team ball. This is how you would treat the goalie in this situation. If he's in the area and he's involved and he's interfering, blow the whistle, give the ball to the other team. Now we have this situation. Do we have a quick restart? Now we have a dead ball. We have a goalie without equipment. It's determined that we're going to allow the goalie to get a stick, get his equipment, and get back in the crease, because we need a properly equipped goalie in the crease.
Right, and this builds off of a rule change that I think was made in previous years, where there was some, I guess, confusion about what happens if sort of we have a scoring play which is imminent, if someone's in the scrimmage area. And I think the clarification is really looking to say that the goalie needs to be treated like everybody else, probably when they're outside of the scrimmage area and outside of the crease. Meaning that the way the rule book states it right now, if the attacking team has possession of the ball in the scrimmage area and someone from either team loses a piece of equipment, and it's not done, intentionally so that they can kill the play is to be stopped immediately so they can get that piece of safety equipment on. So that's whether they're on the offense and defense. I think what this was looking to do is talk about goalies. We typically talk about how they're special, or they have special privileges within the crease. They lose those privileges when they go outside of it and further outside the scrimmage area. So, as Jim had mentioned, goalies are treated just like everyone else when they're outside of the scrimmage area, and if something were to happen to their equipment, and all the different instances in there. So,
yeah, and that goes to the third scenario of now the offensive player has the ball in his stick, and the goalie breaks his stick. Okay. What we don't want to do is kill the play and kill the scoring play for the offense. And that was I think, the major intent of this change, to allow the offense to continue their offense when they have possession and the goalie breaks his stick or loses a glove, so on and so forth, loses a piece of equipment. So they want to allow the offense, as long as the safety of the players is not endangered. So if the goalie breaks his stick, the attackman of the midi, offensive midi, has possession and continues moving away from the goalie with the broken stick, much like any other player. We allow the play continue to give them, for them not to lose that advantage.
Right, and Jim, let me interject with a couple questions too. This had come beforehand, and I know we have some questions coming in, but I think we're probably going to answer a lot of them. Somebody wrote in an excellent question. If a goalkeeper breaks his stick competing for a ground ball outside of the crease, how is possession awarded? So for this, let's just assume that we're in the scrimmage area. The goalie is competing for a ground ball, loses a piece of his mandatory equipment. The ball is loose. How is possession awarded?
Okay.
AP is the answer.
You want me to answer that, or you want to?
Yeah, the answer would be that's going to go to AP, because if we have a piece of lost or broken equipment, the ball is loose in the scrimmage area, we go to AP. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize.
No, that's in the old rule book. It's the AP. We just don't. We have to kill the play. The ball's loose. AP.
Now, Jim, if when a stick becomes broken and the defense has gained possession prior to stoppage, and the ball's in the scrimmage area, play should be stopped. Where should the play be restarted after we either get the equipment back on the player and the field's ready to play? Where should the defense restart with the ball?
The defense, by rule, can start anywhere in the defensive half of the field. They don't have to take it out of the box. They don't have to move it anywhere. We can restart the defensive player at the spot, again, with people 5 yards around.
Correct. Now let's take that situation, and as a stick breaks in the scrimmage area a player on the offense gains possession of the ball prior to the stoppage occurring, let's say that they were right in front of the goal, where is play going to restart by rule?
Okay, if we kill it and they haven't taken a shot, it's going to go out in the alley.
Exactly. Okay, so that was one of the questions that came in. But Caitlin, do you want to go ahead and ask some of the questions that have been coming in from the audience?
So 2 questions around potentially what happens if the goalie purposely drops their glove or their cross.
Purpose, well, now you have a conduct or an unsportsmanlike.
Okay. Next one. What if the goalie's out of the crease and loses his throat guard? He then runs back into the crease without the throat guard. Do we stop play?
Yes, and this is the conundrum we have with this rule. Yes, if the goalie loses any piece of equipment and starts heading toward the crease, kill the play. If it's a loose ball, kill the play. If he's behind the attackman who's got an open shot, let the attackman get the open shot. But if he's heading toward the crease and he's going to be between the ball and the crease, you got to kill the play. And
So-
if it's a loose ball, it's going to be illegal procedure, offense ball. If the offense has the ball, it's going to be illegal procedure, flag down, 30-second, which
Awesome.
then
You just
opens
answered
up
the next question.
opens up a bigger can of worms. And I can hear everybody typing in those things.
And just as a reminder too, that's on the first possession. If it happens again subsequently, that turns into a 1-minute unsportsmanlike foul, and it remains that way. And the player that caused the injury, or not the injury, excuse me, the player that caused the foul is the one that serves the penalty time.
Correct.
Any other questions, Caitlin? Got through that.
Yep, we're
fairly
good right now.
painlessly. Good to know. Okay. Moving on, goalies outside of the crease. Okay, so this, Jim, this situation deals with a goalie and the allotted time that they have to get back into their crease. Can you sort of talk about what we discussed earlier today about, you know, the 5-second rule? Do they get up to 5 seconds? Do they get 5 seconds? And what should officials be doing to ensure that this rule is used properly and that goalies aren't, you know, sort of using what they think is an attempt to sort of delay the game?
Yeah, the goalies always have a chance, always have up to 5 seconds to get back into the crease upon leaving the crease and a dead ball whistle. If they have been active in pursuing a loose ball or clearing the ball situation. I guess we've had some issues or incidences where goalies have left the crease to just delay the game and allow middies to substitute or a different defenseman to cover the attackman with the ball, so on and so forth. And this is why this has been put in. And you don't say, well, you're only going to get 2 seconds this time because of it. It's if he is deliberately delaying the game by randomly leaving the crease to then demand 5 seconds to get back in. We use our managerial skills and have a talk with him and his coach that he's delaying the game, and that could be a conduct foul or a legal procedure, delay a game and move on from that. But we're not going to say to the goalie, well, because of that, you're only getting 2 seconds next time. No, we'll give him the proper amount, up to 5 seconds to chases the ball to the end line. He doesn't get it. He heads back. You give him the count. He gets in. We're good. He clears the ball. He loses it or whatever happens. The ball goes out of bounds. He gets his 5 to go back. all right? And we don't say, well, you're only getting 2 this time. If he gets there in 3 seconds, start it in 3 seconds. Don't just keep waving your 5 seconds because that's what the rule book says. But this is was put in because goalies were delaying the restart to allow personnel changes. Fool me once, I'll give you a warning. Fool me twice, I'm giving you a conduct.
Okay. I think this is the last one we might have, but new stalling situations. Actually, no, we don't. We have way more than that. So a team, this is when we're a point in the game, 2 minutes or less, and a team is ahead by four goals or less, and they have fulfilled the initial 10-second count under 2 minutes of play. A1 shoots the ball deflects off a goal pipe, comes to rest in the goal area, and then A2 causes the ball to leave the goal area. It says ruling stalling. James, do you want to, or Jim, do you want to kind of talk about the clarification that occurred, and I guess maybe what was happening in the past that was causing some confusion?
Yeah, and that also goes to a change in a clarification from last year. The situation we've always done it. You get it in, you keep it in. But now that with the definition of a shot changes possession, ends possession in a lot of situations. So now it was brought up, much like the new rule on page 77 on the 2022 rule book, where a team ahead by 4 goals, guy in the defensive end throws a Gilman, it lands in the box and bounces out. Is that in a failure to advance or not keeping it in? And for years we said, yeah, that's illegal. The ball goes to the other team. It was clarified last year that no, because there was no get it in, keep it in, no possession in the offensive half of the field, that a Gilman pass that bounces in the box and goes out is not a loss of ball. And this now clarifies it because someone said, well, wait a minute, a shot that hits the pipe, possession's over, we got a new possession on it. So if I kick the ball out of the box, I shouldn't be penalized. This stalling situation clarification ends that. And that if once you've had the get it in, keep it in, you've had a 10-second count situation and it's stayed in the box, if the offensive team kicks it out of the box or causes it to leave the box, they lose the ball. Questions, doubts, fears?
The release of penalties during a running clock situation. Jim, do you kind of want to talk about, I guess, how this came up and I guess the guidance? Again, this only has to do with running time penalties. So we're in a situation where the clock is running and it's going to be remaining running for the rest of the game.
Yeah, this was something that we had in our mechanics and what we did without having a rule to back us, where, the goal would be scored, we send the ball up the field, and we tell the table and the bench, penalties released on possession after the faceoff. But we had nothing to back that up on. And so one coach said, well, show me the rule. Well, now you can.
That's perfect, Jim.
Great. Any questions there?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, great. I think that sort of does it for the presentation. I do want to take a chance to thank 2 people who helped with the U.S. Lacrosse Rules Committee and the NFHS for a long time, Dave Simon and Walt Munsey. I had the pleasure of working with both of those gentlemen for a number of years, and they have done a lot for the lacrosse community, not just at U.S. Lacrosse and the NFHS, but with the NCAA for a long time. So Dave and Walt, I know that you guys are out there listening, and I just want you to know how much I appreciated my time with you, and I know James and everyone on the call here would say the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Walt's been my mentor and guidance, and Dave's been my sidekick. Best friends, good people.
Caitlin, anything else from the group?
Nope, and we'll pull the questions that haven't been answered, and we can add them into LaxCon. I'll send them to you all for the LaxCon PowerPoint too.
Okay, great. So with that, if you do have any questions, please send them in to Caitlin or any of us that are on the call here today. Caitlin would be happy to pass them along to the committee, and there's plenty of time for us to address these prior to the start of the season. And one of the things that we want to do as well is all the state rules interpreters out there, James or Jim and I want to establish contact with them and make sure that if you guys in the lacrosse community have questions, you're reaching out to your state rules interpreters, and then we want to hear from the state rules interpreters as well, so that we can find out what issues or clarifications need to be made to the rules, so we can try to bring some consistency out there. So you'll probably be hearing more of that at a local level, but Jim and I are going to be looking forward to trying to reach out to the state rules interpreters to introduce ourselves. I know that they probably maybe have come across my path once or twice and probably know who Jim is, but I think it's important just to put that out there, that you're reaching out, asking questions of your local association, local coaches associations, and then reaching out to your state rules interpreters when you have questions, so that we, the rulemaking bodies, can get it right or know what we need to fix in the rule books, you know, in the future.
Right. If there's something in the rule book that you think needs to be cleaned up, fixed, get it to us. Let's start a conversation. You know, June of 2023, we're going to sit down saying, how can we make this a better rule book so that we can officiate a better game?
I'll just add from a administrative side. One, this is recorded, so we will have this recording available if you want to share it or reread it or go back and take notes. That will be available. And as Rick said, if you have questions that you want us to cover at LaxCon in the larger interpretation, please reach out and you can send them to me at ckelly@usalacrosse.com, and I'll make sure that we are prepared to cover all the topics and questions there.
Great, thank you. Two quick questions that came up that they were submitted beforehand. One was related to the Q collar. Caitlin and James, do you kind of want to talk about what the Q collar is? It's something that people were wondering, are we going to see it out on the field this year? And what's going to happen if, you know, coaches or officials should see it?
You want me to go on this one?
So
yeah, he took protrusions. You have to take the Q
protrusions.
collar.
I feel like I should take Q collar.
Fine, go for it. I'm good. Yeah.
The Q collar is currently legal for play at the high school and youth level, and actually both boys and girls. It is a product that is alleged to help mitigate concussive force and mitigate the risk of concussion for players. It has been cleared or defined by the FDA as a medical device. And so within the rule book language, as a medical device that does not pose a threat of injury to other players or to the self, it is currently legal. It's also legal at the collegiate level.
Yeah, at the NFHS level, we say it's permissible. So we don't want to get it confused with other parts of the equipment. So this is a permissible piece of equipment.
Agreed. So with that, we'll probably hang on here for another minute. If you have some questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you on behalf of US Lacrosse, the NFHS, and the rules committees. Good luck this season. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out.
Good enough. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.